This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9. MCOMNet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KFI PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? The directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 7-3 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency to check in. So this time I will turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please, from KFI's PDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. Thanks for doing the net this evening. This is KT5ICX from Alternate Net Control. I will take short time check-in. If you are one of those who must leave very shortly, but of short you, I'd like you to check in now. Please come to the call sign. But I don't think your name clear transmission. Short time check-in. Okay, well, that was easy. We'll go to general check-in. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name for your transmission. General check-in.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite, Milky Way.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, Cody in Dallas.
This is Alpha Golf 9er Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Okay, there's a pause in the action. I'll go ahead and get some folks checked in. We've got K5JK, Chaz, Milky Way, although he is tonight, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in Dallas, SB5PM, Tony in Dallas, K5 MCD, Cody in Dallas, KG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, K5ZBL, Bill, not Dallas, Farmers Branch, and K5F, Virginia, over in Fort Worth. Additional check-in.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Flight 17.
Going to be pulling seats tonight, but I've got AA5AH, Robert Richardson, N5OF, Clay, each additional picture, please come in. There was one station you were all noise, reverse, try again, maybe increase power. Go ahead and go over to the Echo Link. You're an Echo Link and it's not checked in. I know they just need one. Please come now over on Echo Link. I'll give you extra time.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in point.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Okay, picked up two more. I got K5 KTX Kelly over at this point, but I wrote down Quinlan. After so many years, I'm still used to putting that down. But he gets a point. And N5 DDs, Mr. Bill over in Irving. Anyone else, any road, anywhere, please come in.
Says N5HYP, time and evening. Hi, everyone.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Picked up two more. We got N5HYP, Mr. Amstad himself, Tom in Irving, KG5ZMG, Joe in Arlington. Okay, one more chance. Anyone else would like to check in before we get started? Please come to the call sign name where you drink. Okay, Miss Billy, we're up to 15 check-ins. Back to you. KG5 ICS.
I copied that right. I copied 15. If that's incorrect, please let me know in the chat. All right, let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have a general announcement for this evening's net, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
PM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. I'd like to let everyone know that this is a great net, but it's not the last net of the evening. It's just a great one. Our Afterglow movie net at 10:30 plus or minus 5 minutes is the last net, and tonight we'll be talking about the science fiction comedy Point B from 2013. It's available for free on YouTube, and that's the letter B, Bravo, not the flying insect. Speaking of cool geeky things, GeekNet is this Monday. We don't have a surprise net this month. We missed it by a day, but we do have a GeekNet. You can learn about the very newest thing in the world that tastes like chicken, and you can also bring your own geeky news and news of the weird to the net on 146.88 megahertz at 1900 local time. That's 7 p.m. Your topics and questions about almost anything are welcome. And finally, on a serious note, they probably had some notice up on their website for a month, but we only sign into this website once every 5 to 10 years. So news is just going around the local amateur community this week. The FCC CORS system, C-O-R-E-S, this is not the license manager, the ULS, but the separate system where you pay fees or request a new FRN. CORS is about to require two-factor authentication this Friday, March 29th. So since most of us, I hadn't been in there since 2020, since most of us never sign into this system, or we have it since we first got our license or last renewed, please go in there this weekend. Just go to your favorite search engine, search for FCC CORS, Charlie Oscar Romeo Echo Sierra. Make sure you have a valid email address and a valid alternate email address and a correct phone number in that system, or you may find yourself having to call or write to the FCC next time you have to pay a fee. Bummer. Well, that's what I had. NT5TM, back to net.
Thank you very much, Tony. Very important things going on there. Anybody else have any announcements for this evening? Now with your call sign. Anything, so I'll go ahead for announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a CL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The ARC hosts Monday Night Net. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin'. This is a cooking net where you can come and gather some new recipes, share some recipes of your own, or come with questions or anecdotes about food. The second week of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday of the month, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And as Tony mentioned, on the fourth week is Geek Net, Geek Beyond Ham Radio. AMSAT East is 8 p.m., Q&As, info and news for amateur satellites. Friday is CERT City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa KI5GRH is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. All are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. Of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And following Skynet at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. More on that in just a moment. The first and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. And daily is the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 8 p.m. Central Time. You're welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as promised, more about tonight's Afterglow info. The Afterglow Movie Net is a net where we pick a movie, we watch it during the week, and then we come back and discuss the movie. We discuss characterization, the scores, and any other trivia of the movie. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Tom, C5ICX, to read his award-winning and highly accurate tonight's Afterglow info from KF5CDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. Thanks, Tony, for making it as well. So here is the description of tonight's movie. So four college students looked at each other and thought about what it would be like to make a science fiction movie about time travel. You purchase on Amazon, produce camera, lights, equipment, feature gold, and even cast themselves with these roles. What they didn't expect was their video equipment to be used as ad-hoc time machine. Suddenly they weren't making an SF film, they were making a documentary. They all wondered what the whole thing would look like. Unfortunately, someone found a discarded copy of the primer script. Maybe they needed primer dialogue to make the movie even better. Things were about to get important or both. And both. So join us tonight for the 2013 movie Point. Still have to see it. Participate in that. That's it, Billy. Now back to you. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Tom. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5TDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Got rid of him. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas meeting will be held on Friday, April the 26th. Just had one last night, and the program last night was all about eyepieces and telescopes. It was great. Anyway, the next one will be on April the 26th. That's a Friday. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be actually the task members talking about their total solar eclipse results. We'll talk more about that total solar eclipse later on. Saturday night public observing sessions continue, and Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the fourth Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Rockwall. I don't think it happened because it clouded up really severely about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm not going to ask if there's any ham radio operators at that event because I don't think it even happened. So check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control. Billy, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So this time I will turn the net over to Bill and DB. The net is yours from KFI PDF.
Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and member at large of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society, a nonprofit group. Our group meets, their local chapter meets on the second Sunday of each month. But before the next meeting in April, we're going to have an event this coming Friday. On the last Friday of each month, we have a social event we call Space Rendezvous. This event is held in Irving on Highway 635 at Cheddar's Restaurant, which is at 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. This is on the eastbound, that's the south frontage road of Highway 635, east of MacArthur, and before you get to Bush Turnpike. This event starts at 6 p.m. So in March, Space Rendezvous will be next Friday, March the 29th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Cheddar's Restaurant, Highway 635 in Irving. Everybody is welcome. You do not have to be a member of any organization to attend. So we have people there who are also interested in space. This is things that humans do in space, like rockets and spacecraft and space probes and things of that nature. This is not astronomy. It's a human space adventures. So, Space Rendezvous is coming Friday at Cheddar's. Then in April, the National Space Society is going to have some events. The first event is going to be on Saturday, April the 6th, at the Irving South Library, which is actually right across Irving Boulevard from Irving City Hall in downtown Irving. There is going to be an event at 10 a.m., starting at 10 a.m. on April the 6th, which is a Saturday. And this event is, of course, just a few days before the solar eclipse on April the 8th. But it's also the day after National Astronaut Day, which is April the 5th. I bet you didn't know there was a National Astronaut Day. So also, it's a few days before Yuri's Night, April the 12th. That is the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin, who is a Soviet cosmonaut who is the first human in space. And it's also a little early, but an anniversary of the 34th anniversary of the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope, which was on April the 24th. So, again, this is the Irving South Library Space Event, Saturday, April the 6th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is N5BB. The next National Space Society event after that will be our April meeting, which is on Sunday afternoon, April the 14th, starting at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. This is at the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline. Our presenter, I don't know the name yet, but it's planned to be a member of the National Society of Black Engineers Aerospace Group. So this is a group with local engineers, and they're going to speak about something in the aerospace area. I don't know exactly what it'll be yet, and that will be on Sunday, April the 14th at 3:30 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. You can attend on WebEx virtually or in person at Spring Creek Barbecue. And that's all the short-term things coming up with National Space Society. If you have any questions about any of those events, or you want to be a member of the National Space Society or our local chapter, you can reach me, Bill, N5BB, at N5BB@ARRL.net, or space at Byram.net, SPACE at BYROM.net. That's all I got. And I've got an early morning flight, so I'm going to be out of here, and we'll see you guys next week. This is N5BB.
Thank you very much, Bill. All right, there's a little advertising blurb here. The National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas in the search box and request access. You'll receive meetings and club activities. Also have a Cotton Bowl Eclipse event announced. NSF and NASA will host the Sun, Moon, and You Solar Eclipse Viewing event at the Graf Tyson is our special guest speaker, along with Ready, Jet, Go from PBS. NOAA about the eclipse, space, weather, and why we study the sun. STEM organizations will be on site throughout the stadium's concourse with activities and handouts. Telescopes will be available for viewing the eclipse and food for purchase. This is KS5TS Billy, your net control for this session. RC Skynet. Our next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for tonight's discussion, I have chosen the NASA NISAR mission. The NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture SAR November India. The joint project between NASA and ISRO to co-develop and launch dual-frequency aperture radar on an observation satellite. The satellite will be the first radar imaging satellite to use dual frequencies. It will be used to observe and understand natural instruments. Will study the cost estimated at $1 billion. NISAR is likely to be the world's most expensive Earth imaging satellite. The ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, or NISAR satellite, will use advanced imaging to map the elevation of Earth's land and ice masses 4 to 6 times a month at resolutions of 5 to 10 meters. It is designed to observe and measure the planet's most complex natural processes, including disturbances, ice sheet collapse, and natural hazards such as earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and land. Partnership between NASA and ISRO, which is a space research organization. For the terms of the agreement, NASA will provide the mission's L-band aperture radar, a high-rate telecommunications subsystem, data GPS receivers, solid-state recorder, and a payload subsystem. ISRO will provide the satellite bus, an S-band synthetic aperture radar, the launch associated launch services. Data from NISAR will be freely available 1 to 2 days after observation and within hours in case of emergency. Data collected from NISAR will reveal information about the evolution and state of Earth's crust, help scientists better understand our planet's future resource and hazard management. The satellite will be 3-axis stabilized. It'll use a 12-meter deployable mesh antenna and will operate on both the L and S microphones. The aperture mesh reflector antenna by Astra Aerospace, Grumman Company. SRO's share of the project cost share is about $808. The satellite is slated for launch from India aboard a GSLV 2024. It will be a sun-synchronous dawn type. The project has passed the first stage of the design, has been reviewed and approved by NASA. However, in an interview with the Times, chairman of ISRO, Sridhara Samana, said that though the GSLV will be built by March 8th, the satellite is still undergoing tests, and they were expecting to launch the satellite only the second half by ISRO have might face higher than expected temperatures when ISRO to send the spacecraft back to NASA so that a special coating to reduce the that it could potentially fail to deploy in harsh conditions of outer space. The special coating designed to reflect solar radiation. JPL's specialized facility in California. Load is going to be an L-band, a gigahertz, 20-meter wavelength, polarimetric SAR, band 3.20, 0.3 centimeter wavelength, polarimetric, produced by the ISRO. NISAR.jpl.nasa.gov, www.isro.gov. Let me tell you just a little bit about aperture radar is a form of radar that is used in dimensional reconstructions of objects such as land. NISAR uses the motion of the region to provide finer is typically mounted on a moving platform such as an aircraft or spacecraft and has its origins in an advanced looking airborne radar over a target during the it's seen as illuminated creates aperture, the size of the antenna. The larger the aperture, the higher the image resolution will be, regardless of whether the aperture is physical, a large antenna, or synthetic, a moving antenna. SAR to create high-resolution images with antenna size and orientation. Objects which are further away remain illuminated. The property of creating larger pictures for more distant objects results in a consistent space for a range of viewing distance. Here's a little bit about synthetic aperture radar. This can be found on Wikipedia, as well as information about the NISAR found on Wikipedia and there you have information about the NISAR space PDF. Billy, your net control. Hi, net. At this time, I'm going to give the net back to Tom, KU5ICX. If you'll do a check-in round and see if there's anyone on frequency to check from KF5's PDF.
Billy, this is KU5ICX. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins now. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo
Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carrollton.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
They're coming in 2 by 2. I got KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James Carrollton, and WB4MFI, Ted and Dallas, low power. Anyone else want to check in? Please come out. Okay, here again, we're going to move on to Chaz again, K5JJ. That's yours.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide master, that would be Tom. That was slide number 2. Slide number 3, please. On March the 16th, the moon was at its first quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Today, on March the 23rd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,294 kilometers. The moon will be full on March the 25th. Actually, late tomorrow night, early tomorrow, Monday morning, that's when it's full. And there's going to be an eclipse of the moon at that point. We'll talk more about that eclipse later on. On April the 1st, the moon phase is at third quarter. On April the 1st, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 358,850 kilometers. On April the 8th, the moon is new, and a total solar eclipse is for here in North Texas, and more about that later on, too. Slide master, slide number 4, please. On March the 24th, 25th, there's going to be a penumbral eclipse of the moon. Actually, it's a partial penumbral eclipse. The Earth's shadow has 2 parts, a darker part called the umbra and a lighter part called the penumbra. Around 96% of the moon will go into the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, the penumbra, during the eclipse, and the moon's brightness will only be dimmed slightly. The eclipse begins at 11:53 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That would be tomorrow, late night tomorrow. At 2:14 a.m., that's on March 25th, the moon will be, the eclipse will be at maximum with 96% of the moon inside the penumbra. At 4:32 a.m. Central Daylight Time, that's on Monday, March the 25th, the eclipse ends when the moon leaves the penumbra. Interesting, but not too exciting. We'll talk about something more exciting in a little bit. Slide master, slide number 5, please. On March the 26th, there is a conjunction of the moon and Spica in the southwestern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 6, please. On March the 30th, you can observe the conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares in the southwestern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 7. On April the 2nd, there's a conjunction of the moon and the asteroid Ceres in the southeastern morning sky. And slide master, slide number 8. On April the 3rd, there's a conjunction of Venus and Neptune in strong twilight in the eastern morning sky. Now, you'll need a telescope to observe the planet Neptune. And I tried to look at Venus this morning visually as it was rising, and I missed it. I guess Venus is kind of dim, too, so you probably need a telescope for that, too. Slide master, slide number 9. On April the 6th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Saturn and Mars in the southeastern morning sky. And again, that's going to be really difficult to observe. You'll need at least a telescope, well, binoculars, if not a telescope, because it's going to be in strong twilight. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. On April the 7th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Venus in the eastern morning sky. Again, you might need binoculars to see this. And there's also an occultation of Venus by the moon during the daytime on April the 7th. Now, an occultation occurs when the moon moves in between us and the planet Venus and the Earth, which blocks out Venus from our view. You may be able to observe this event with your two eyes, but binoculars would probably be very helpful. Be careful not to look at the sun with the binoculars. And a good rule of thumb is stand next to a building that blocks the sun, but you still can see the moon and the planet Venus. The disappearance of Venus occurs at 11:17 and 34 seconds. That's a.m. Central Daylight Time on April the 7th. That's for Brookhaven campus. Times will vary throughout the Metroplex. The reappearance happens at 11:45 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Daylight Time. Now, if you're watching the video version of Skynet, the picture of Venus next to the moon just before a daytime occultation was taken by myself on December the 7th, 2015, and it was amazing. You could see the disappearance, in other words, the occultation of Venus with just your two eyes on that event. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Okay, the very next day, April the 8th. Remember, we have a solar eclipse that's coming in. Oh, I've got to update the timing on that. I believe we are at 16 days away from the solar eclipse. A solar eclipse is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and for a few very lucky people on the Earth, blocks out some or all of the sun from our view. Slide Master, slide number 12. On April the 8th, yep, that's the total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. From Brookhaven campus, the sun will be completely blocked out for around 3 minutes and 21 seconds between 1:41 and 1:44 p.m. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see stars in the sky just as if it were an evening twilight. It's not going to get completely dark, but it's going to get really dark. The next total solar eclipse visible from North Texas after that date is not going to be until July the 9th, the year 2317. Now, there's going to be a partial eclipse in about 20 years, but that's not the same thing. So this total solar eclipse is a very big deal for us because it only happens around here about once every 300 years in North Texas. Downtown Dallas hotels have been booked for months. The surrounding hotels have also been booked and around the dates of the eclipse. And some downtown of Dallas are going to have streets that are closed for an eclipse festival. Traffic is going to be crazy that day. Many school districts to the south and to the east of the Metroplex are going to be closed that day because they're afraid they can get the students to school, but they might not be able to get them back home because of the traffic jams after the eclipse. The school districts inside, the larger ones here in the Metroplex, seem like they're going to remain open that day. It's going to be a crazy time, but it's going to be fun for us as astronomers and observers. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Now, do any of you out there in the radio land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now, what's your call sign if you need a fill or have a question? Okay, slide number 14, please. So, as the moon will wane next week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for other world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, well, actually, I'll be doing another segment in Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you'll know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control. Billy, KF5.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to the eclipse. Big deal. Oh, my goodness. And it is 16 days away. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. I'm going to turn the net over to Kelly. The net is yours from KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Billy, and hopefully everyone can hear me. I got just a little bit under the weather today. But speaking of the solar eclipse, I'm also very excited. My aunt is bringing a bowl of banana pudding to my house, so hopefully we'll have good weather. But anyway, speaking of the eclipse, the Sun Sketcher team is looking for 1 million volunteers to capture photos on their cell phones during the April 8th total solar eclipse. These images will help scientists learn about the size, shape, and inner structure of the sun. This NASA-funded citizen science project invites anyone who will be within the path of totality in the U.S. to take photos of the Bailey's Beads effect, which occurs when little points of sunlight pass through the valleys in between the mountains on the edges of the moon. It's the last piece of the sun seen before totality and the first to appear after totality. For a few seconds, these glimmers of light look like beads along the moon's edge. The Sun Sketcher app, which is free on iOS and Android, would use smartphones to automatically take a sequence of images as Bailey's beads appear. Volunteers will simply download a free app, activate it just before totality, set the phone down with the rear camera pointed at the sun, and leave it alone. The app will use the phone's GPS location to calculate when Bailey's beads will be visible. The cell phone images of Bailey's beads will look fairly simple, but the tiny dots of light will provide crucial data about our star. To learn more, go to sunsketcher.org, and that's SUNSKETCHER.org. Another way to contribute to science during the eclipse is to record air temperature measurements and enter sky conditions in NASA's Globe Observer app. Globe Eclipse is a temporary tool within the app that collects data on how the eclipse changes atmospheric conditions near you. This data is made available to students and professional scientists for their research. During the 2017 total solar eclipse, more than 10,000 observers helped collect over 20,000 cloud observations with 60,000 photos and 80,000 air temperature measurements. To learn more, go to observer.globe.gov, then click on the Globe Eclipse Challenge. In space history for this past week, starting with March 18th, back in 1965, the Soviet Union's Voskhod 2 launched carrying 2 crew members, Pavel Belyaev and Alexei Leonov. The spacecraft was equipped with an inflatable airlock, which allowed Leonov to make the first spacewalk in human history. The walk lasted 12 minutes, but as he tried to re-enter the airlock, Leonov noticed he could barely move his limbs because his suit had inflated and stiffened. He released pressure in the suit to dangerously low levels to enable himself to operate the airlock and re-enter the spacecraft. Leonov and Belyaev also faced dangerous challenges on their return. Due to a delay in the re-entry process, they landed far off target in deep snow in the wolf-infested forest of Siberia. They spent a very cold night in the capsule while awaiting rescue the next day. March 19th, back in 2008, a gamma-ray burst that occurred 7.5 billion light-years from Earth, halfway across the visible universe, was detected by NASA's SWIFT satellite. The explosion was so powerful that the afterglow was briefly visible to the naked eye, making it the most distant object ever seen by humans in recorded history. To put that in perspective, That means the explosion occurred before our solar system even formed. March the 20th, 1962, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev responded to President John F. Kennedy's March 7th letter suggesting teamwork in space exploration. Khrushchev was positive about the prospect of international cooperation, saying that, in the future, international cooperation in the conquest of space will undoubtedly extend to even newer fields of space exploration if we can now lay a firm foundation for it. Khrushchev's letter prompted talks between representatives from the Soviet Union and the United States and ultimately led to the first U.S.-USSR agreement on space cooperation. That agreement was signed just a few months later in June 1962. March 21st, 1965, NASA launched the Ranger 9 lunar probe. The probe was designed to image and impact the moon's crater Alphonsus, which was thought to be the site of relatively recent lunar volcanic activity. The spacecraft carried 6 cameras that were pointed directly at the moon's surface during the final phase of flight. 20 minutes before impact, the camera system began to warm up, and for the final 19 minutes before impact, Ranger 9 successfully relayed nearly 6,000 high-resolution images, some of which were broadcast live on television. Data from the mission dramatically improved scientists' understanding of the moon's mass and led to the discovery that the moon's center of mass is displaced from its geometric center. March 22nd, 1997, comet Hale-Bopp made its closest approach to Earth. Hale-Bopp was discovered independently by Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp while it was just outside of Jupiter's orbit in 1995. At nearly 665 million miles away, this made Hale-Bopp the farthest comet discovered by amateurs at that point. Being unusually bright, Hale-Bopp probably wasn't that difficult to spot. It appeared 1,000 times brighter than Comet Halley did at the same distance. Hale-Bopp won't return again until around the year 4385. Also on March the 22nd, back in 2010, after 5 successful years of operating on Mars, the Mars exploration rover Spirit sent its last transmission to Earth. Spirit landed on Mars on January 4, 2004, 3 weeks before Opportunity. The rover successfully completed its 90-sol mission and functioned 20 times longer than expected. On May 1st, 2009, Spirit became stuck in soft sand. After numerous attempts to wrest Spirit from the soil, NASA decided to continue Spirit's mission as a stationary platform. Spirit functioned in this capacity until this day in 2010. Spirit gathered a bounty of scientific data about Mars in addition to the spectacular pictures you've probably seen. In relaying data critical to characterizing the current and past geology of Mars, Spirit brought us closer to understanding the role of water on Mars and whether there were conditions there in the past that could have supported life as we know it. This is K5KTX. March 23rd, 1965, Gus Grissom and John Young launched aboard Gemini 3 in the first U.S. spaceflight crewed by more than one astronaut. The mission was designed to demonstrate the capabilities of manned orbital flight, as well as evaluate the new 2-person capsule design. Overall, Gemini 3 marked the beginning of a new phase in learning the skills and testing the technology needed to put humans on the moon. One historic first for this mission was not planned. Gemini 3 flew the first corned beef sandwich into space. It was jokingly smuggled aboard the spacecraft by John Young at the behest of astronaut Wally Schirra. Though it was undoubtedly more appetizing than the early space foods, the crumbs produced by the contraband sandwich posed a potential risk to flight equipment and vents. The sandwich in question, now encased in acrylic, holds a place in history in the Grissom Memorial Museum in Mitchell, Indiana. family, we have a few astronaut birthdays that were celebrated this past week. Starting with March the 17th, there's 3 astronauts with birthdays on that date. 1930, James Irwin, who was on Apollo 15. 1936, Ken Mattingly, who was on Apollo 16, and also Space Shuttle missions STS-4 and 51C. And March 17, 1962, Kalpana Chawla, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-87 and the ill-fated STS Columbia mission 107. And by the way, she got her master's degree from University of Texas at Arlington, one of her master's degrees. And then March the 18th, 1954, James Riley. And that's all I've got this evening. Back to you, Billy. This is K5 KTX.
Thank you very much, Kelly. This is KSI PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Yeah, I do believe at UT Arlington they have named there's Kalpana Chawla Hall, so they've named a building in her. Curious, so we have a little bit of extra time. Has anybody gone to Mitchell, Indiana to visit the corned beef sandwich? If so, if anybody's on frequency that has been there to see the sandwich, I'd love to hear your take on it. So if you have that experience, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anybody, so maybe that'll be a fun future field trip to go to Mitchell, Indiana to visit the ill-fated corn. I think that's funny that they put it in acrylic, so they have preserved it. That would be an interesting sight to see. All right, up next is Miss Carolyn's Constellation. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom one more time before we get to Chaz to see if we have anybody on frequency that would like to check in. So, Tom, if you will do another check-in, then you have my permission to turn it over to Chaz. So this is to KU5 ICX from KF5 PDS.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. This is KU5 ICX. I'll take additional check-ins now. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come to your call sign phonetically. Your name, where you're transmitting from. One of those evenings. Okay, well, we're up to 17 seconds, so we'll go back to Chaz. Stand by JHA. It's time for the Carolyn Constellations for week.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. This is KF5JHA Chaz. Thanks a lot. Now I'm hungry for corned beef sandwiches. Wonder where I can buy one tomorrow for lunch. Oh, well. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Leo the Lion and Leo Minor the Small Lion, so it's a twofer. Leo is one of the zodiac constellations and is the 12th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 947 square degrees. Leo is one of the oldest constellations in the sky. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Mesopotamians had a constellation similar to Leo as early as 4000 BC. The Persians knew the constellation as Shira, or Shir, Babylonians call it the Great Lion. The Greeks associated Leo with a Nemean lion, the beast that was killed by Hercules during the first of the 12 labors. The lion was also placed among the constellations because it was the king of the beasts. In the sky, the 6 bright stars of the constellation that form the sickle of Leo represents the lion's head. If you've never seen it in the sky, you've got to see it in the sky. In the real sky, it's really good. Slide Master, slide number 16, the most important part of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Well, maybe it's not the most important part of Skynet, but at least I hope you laugh or boo or hiss. I hope it keeps you awake anyway. What kind of animals and how many do you need to make a square? So what kind of animals and how many of them do you need to make a square? Oh, I'm sure somebody can do this. It's a geometry problem. Oh, come on, Miss Net Control, you can probably do this in Echolink. What is the answer? She's a mathematician, you know, Billy is. No? So what kind of animals and how many do you need to make a square? Well, you need 4 lions. Get it? 4 lions? What do you call a lion with chicken pox? A dotted lion. What do you call a lion wearing a stylish hat? A dandelion. What's a lion running a copy machine called? A copycat. How do we know lions are religious? Well, because they pray frequently and they pray as a family. And the final one in this sequence, what street do lions live on? What street do lions live on? They live on Main Street. You know, the hair on the back of the lion's head is called Main. Okay, this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. Oh, in the Echolink chat session, Billy said she has the answers, but she had to abstain from giving them. Yeah, okay. So, slide 17. To find Leo in the sky, let's start with something familiar, Orion. Unfortunately, it's cloudy tonight, just like it was last Saturday, so we can't find it in the real sky. But if you find Orion in the southwestern sky tonight, the 2 shoulder stars are called Bellatrix and Betelgeuse. Draw a line from right to left, from Bellatrix to Betelgeuse, and keep going. If you should run into the next brightest star is Canis Minor, Procyon. That's the next brightest star you run into. Keep on going past that Procyon, and then you should run into the brightest star in Leo called Regulus. And that's how you can find Leo. Slide Master, slide number 18. Regulus, also called Alpha Leonis, means the little king. Robert Burnham notes in Burnham's Celestial Handbook that Regulus has been almost universally associated with ancient cultures with royalty and the kingly power. Regulus is a multiple star system with Regulus B and C easily observable in just about any instrument as a single star, but it appears as a single star and can be split with a large instrument and good seeing. Regulus itself is a B-type star and a blue-white star. Regulus lies only a degree from the ecliptic, so it is fairly common for the moon to pass very near it, and from time to time the moon will occult the star Regulus. Sometimes you can even see that with a telescope during the daytime. All right, show of hands. Is there anyone out there alive in July 7th in 1959? If so, how old were you? On that date, the planet Venus occulted the star Regulus, which is extremely a rare event. Did anyone out there observe it? Well, we'll get back to that answer that question later on. Okay. Alciba, or Gamma Leonis, derived from the Arabic phrase which means the lion's mane. This is an interesting double star with a primary having an orange-red color, and the companion is a yellow-greenish color, which makes a nice color contrast, at least for some people. Just 2 degrees to the northwest of Gamma Leonis is the radiance of the famous Leonid meteor shower, which peaks in November 17th, up around November 17th each year, and it's originated from the comet 55P Tempel-Tuttle. You know, that meteor shower has storms every so many years. The last time was in the year 2000. That was awesome. Slide master, slide number 19, please. What we now call the Leo triplet, or the Leo trio, M65, M66, and NGC 3628. These 3 galaxies are so close together it's easy to see all of them in the same low-power field of view in a telescope. They can be observed in a 3-inch telescope. They look like small, faint fuzz balls with slightly differing shapes, and an 8-inch telescope easily shows all 3 galaxies. Photographs showing a warp in NGC 3628 dust lanes and asymmetric spiral structure in M66, which contributes to their listings in the ARP Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies. Slide master, slide number 20, please. Messier object, or M object 105, is an elliptical galaxy. Dave Hutchinson writes that in its Celestron 8, it essentially looks like a big fuzzy cotton ball. And his book, The Messier Object, Stephen James Amira writes that M105 is perhaps the purest object in the Messier catalog. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. And it is slightly oval disk, shows the least amount of imperfection. M105 has 2 nearby but somewhat fainter companions, NGC 3384 and NGC 3389. By the way, NGC stands for New General Catalog, and these M objects are from Charles Messier's list of 110 objects. Just want to explain what that is. So NGC 3384 and NGC 3389 can all easily fit in the same field of view as M105. It also has 2 slightly more distant companions, and we'll talk about those, M95 and M. Messier object number 95 and 96, Dave Hutchinson writes that they are the 2 beautiful spiral galaxies that can be seen in the same field of view using an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. With a wide-angle view at about 20 power, you may be able to see M105 as well as M96 and M97, M95 and 96. M95 is a barred spiral galaxy, and at higher power, its central bar is visible. M96 is classified as a normal spiral galaxy. Some structure is visible with higher magnifications. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 22. We're going to go on to Leo Minor for a few moments. Leo Minor is a small, faint constellation in the northern sky with only 1 star brighter than 4th magnitude. The constellation's name means the smaller lion in Latin. Leo Minor was created in 1687 from 18 stars between the larger constellation of Leo and Ursa Major, and has no myths associated with it. Leo Minor is the 64th constellation in size, occupying only an area of 232 square degrees. Slide master, slide number 23. Beta Leonis Minoris, the only star in Leo Minor that has a Greek letter name. It is the 2nd brightest star in the constellation. Beta Leonis Minoris is a binary star. The components have stellar designations G834 and F84, which means they are a yellow giant subgiant and a yellow-white subgiant. The brighter star has 36 times more luminous than our sun and has about twice the mass. It has 7.8 times the sun's radius. The companion is 5.8 times more luminous than the sun and is 1.35 solar masses. It is twice the solar radius. The stars have apparent magnitudes of 4.4 and 6.12 and are approximately 146 light years distant from us. Slide master, slide number 24. We're going to talk about a very unusual object that has been recently discovered. Okay, this is a strange name. Hades Vorwolf is a quasar ionization echo, a rare type of astronomical object that was considered to be unidentified astronomical object at the time of its discovery. It was first spotted by Hanne van Arkel, a Dutch school teacher, in 2007. She discovered the object while taking part in the Galaxy Zoo project. Maybe some of you have been involved with that. And she was just an amateur volunteer. The object's name, Hades Vorwolf, means Hanne's object in Dutch. The astronomers found that this object is the only visible part of a 300 light-year long gaseous stream stretching around the galaxy IC 2497. The greenish object is visible because a searchlight beam of light from the galaxy core illuminates it. This beam comes from a quasar, a bright, energetic object that's powered by a black hole. That's the center of that galaxy. Wow. You need to look this up. VOORWERP. I'll bet if you search that, you'll find a lot more information about that. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 25. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Leo and Leo Minor. I've just given you a sampling of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 26, and that is Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Leo the Lion and Leo Minor the Small Lion. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and work on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time we'll take a look at, again, two different constellations, Pyxis the Compass and Antilla the Pump. Yes, there's a pump in the sky. Now, while I've got the microphone, before I turn it back to our net control, I just want to let you know I'm scheduled to be the net control next week, and the feature topic that I'm choosing is about Easter. Why is Easter when it is? How do we determine the date of Easter? All those questions and a few more will be answered because next week will be the night before Easter. Oh, maybe we can spot the Easter bunny during Skynet next week. And this is KF5 JHA. This is Chaz saying good night, and 73 turning it back over to Billy, KF5 PDS.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So this time I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, so you'll give us a rundown on launches. This is from KF5 PDS.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. By the way, just to mention, I just got word this morning that there is another Starship headed out to the launch pad in Texas. They've already got one ready to go, although it's not yet cleared for flight. So it's 7 or 8 of this year alone to try and get it flight worthy and trying to do it in the manual. Okay, well, what do we have? March 25th, coming up here in a couple of days, Starlink 6-46 is the launch from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. Falcon 9 will launch another batch of second generation Starlink 62 mini internet satellite. The stage 2 will land on a drone ship, the short wall of gravitas, drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And we have on March 28th, Delta IV Heavy, which will be flying in all 70. This is from SLV-36 VHA. United launch flying Delta IV Heavy rocket will launch classified by satellite cargo for the U.S. National Office. The largest of the Delta IV family, the Heavy version, features 3 common booster cores, Delta IV family, mounted together to form a triple-body rocket. The final flight, the Delta IV rocket. We have in April to be determined, 1 and 2, which will launch from Vandenberg at SLC-4G. This will be on a Falcon 9. First pair of the world's first observation satellites for maximum technology. They plan to launch 6 commercial world high resolution remote sensing satellites into a mix of sun synchronous and mid-inclination orbit of 3 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. The first stage of the Falcon 9 will return to land soon 4. Then we have in April to be determined the launch of a Vulcan Centaur, the Dream Chaser 1, which will launch from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its second demonstration flight from Sierra for Space Dream Chaser cargo vehicle for the International Space Station. The Dream Chaser is a lifting body resupply spacecraft that will launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. This will be Dream Chaser's first flight to space. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly into the 4L configuration with 4 GEM 63 XL solid rocket boosters and a long length pair load carrying a 2 RL-10 rocket. On April 30th, Falcon Heavy will launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. This is the fourth and final satellite, the next generation geostationary weather satellite for NASA and NOAA. GOES-U will orbit at 22,300 miles above the equator to monitor the weather conditions across the United States. We have in May, Q1, Atlas V. This will be the launch, updated the date here, of the CST-100 Starliner Smooth Flight Test. This will be from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket designated A085 will launch Boeing CST-100 Starliner spacecraft on its first mission with astronauts known as the Smooth Test Flight to the International Space Station. The capsule will dock with the space station and return to Earth, landing in the western United States. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sue Williams will fly on the mission. The rocket will fly in the vehicle configuration with 2 solid rocket boosters and dual engine Centaur upper stage. Then sometime in June, we have TurfSat 6A, which will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch TurfSat 6A satellite and Turkish operator TurfSat. 6A is the first geosynchronous communication satellite built in Turkey with development led by TÜBİTAK Space Technologies Research Institute, Turkish Aerospace. On June 24th, we have Satellite Launch Center, which is the Republic of China. It's the launch site. The Long March 2C rocket will launch the Space Station Multi-Band Astronomical Variable Object Monitor, SBOM, spacecraft. The satellite is a dual Franco-Chinese mission, which is dedicated to the study of the distant explosions of stars of gamma-ray bursts. There are 4 main instruments on board, 2 of which are French, which are Chinese. The spacecraft will be launched on a 625-kilometer Earth orbit and will operate for at least 3 years with an option to extend for another 2 years beyond that. And finally, I've got 2 more. Falcon 9 ASTM launch from SLC-40 at Vandenberg. Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Arctic satellite broadband mission to the satellite from space Norway. Falcon 9 will launch the 2 Northrop Grumman-built satellites into a highly elliptical orbit that lingers over the Arctic region. The satellite carries communications payloads for the Norwegian Ministry of Defense, the U.S. Space Force, and the Mars. And then finally, boy, I'm right. We have the summer Falcon 9 launch, sometime this summer, Falcon 9 Polaris Dawn launch, System Launch Complex version of A.S. Kennedy. Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft. Polaris Dawn mission will be commanded by billionaire Eric Mason, making his second trip to space. He will be joined with the all-private mission by pilot Scott Kidd and SpaceX employees Sarah Gillis and Anna. The Crew Dragon will return to splash down at sea. And that's it. That's probably enough. Back to net control. This is KC5 right here.
Thank you very much, Tom. All right, this is KF5 TDS Billy, your net control for this section of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brent, WB5OZL. The net is yours from KF5 TDS.
Thanks, Billy. This is WB5OZL. The title of this article is Secrets of the Van Allen Belt Revealed in New Study. A challenge to space scientists to better understand our hazardous near-Earth space environment has been set in a new study led by the University of Birmingham. The research represents the first step towards new theories and methods that will help scientists predict and analyze the behavior of particles in space. It has implications for theoretical research as well as for practical applications such as space weather forecasting. The research focused on two bands of energetic particles in near-Earth space referred to as the radiation belts or the Van Allen belts. These particles are trapped within the Earth's magnetosphere and can damage electronics and satellites and spacecraft passing through, as well as posing a risk to astronauts. Understanding how these particles behave has been a goal for physics and engineers for decades. Since the 1960s, researchers have used principles to contain within quasi-linear models to explain how the charged particles move through space. In the new study, however, researchers have found evidence that the standard theory might not apply as often as previously assumed. The team of 16 scientists from institutions in the UK, USA, and Finland explored the limits of standard theories. The application of the quasi-linear theory can seem straightforward, but in fact integrating it into space physics models in accordance with scientific measurements made in space is a delicate procedure. This paper breaks down the challenges behind this process. The findings are published in a special edition of Frontiers in Astronomy and Space Scientists, Editor's Challenge in Space Physics. Lead author, Dr. Oliver Allenson from the Space Environment and Radio Engineering, SERENE, group at the University of Birmingham said, gaining a better understanding of the behavior of these particles is crucial for interpreting satellite data and for understanding the underlying physics of space environments. Researchers involved in the study are based in the UK at the Universities of Birmingham, Exeter, Northumbria, Warwick, St Andrews, and the British Antarctic Survey. In the USA at the University of California, Los Angeles, University of Iowa, and the U.S. Air Force Research Lab, New Mexico, and in Finland at the University of Helsinki. Next steps for the research will include an enhanced theoretical description based on the findings of this work and can be used in space weather models to forecast the behavior of these hazardous particles in near-Earth space. This is in ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. All right, we're getting close to the end of the net, so I'll just mention that for visible satellite passages, you can use the website www.heavens-above.com to find out what's in orbit and where to look during flyovers. Right, so that leads us to astronomical Q&A. Is there anyone on frequency that has any questions? We have very knowledgeable folks. Stand by if you have an astronomical question. Please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any, so I'll return the net one more time to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a final check-in round and get me a final count for this evening's net, I would appreciate it. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5PDF.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. And this is KE5ICX. This is last. If you'd like to join us this evening for Skynet, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, well, we had 17 check-ins. Billy, back to you with KE5ICX.
Copy that. Tonight we had 17 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week, every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net-controlled nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:27 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, in about 5 minutes, the Afterglow movie net will be starting, so come back for that net. 7-3, everybody.
Thanks, Billy, for doing the net, and she's right. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to discuss movie Point B. Well, then, this is KE5ICX.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
All right. In the order we're kind of amazing. Time's up. So, tonight's movie is called C. And I finally settled on in 2015, but it says here, correct? This is one of those low budget, almost college film type of thing. It's an interesting premise, although the time travel is always it's one of the many common plots of science fiction films. It was different in that it was a comedy. So it billed itself as one. I've got a very, very, very short description. I couldn't find anything on Rotten Tomatoes, or Wiki, or anything. So the film is very politically released. But this is what it says. It is four friends in graduate student physics department of the university to discover their energy actually work with the true three teleportation device through experimentation and adjustments used to device quickly discovered changeable consequences. Now, I'm going to have to be honest with you. I fell asleep during this movie, so I missed most of the middle part. So I'm not going to be very helpful as far as my own descriptions of this movie. I did see the end. I saw the beginning, but I can't. I'm counting on you all to explain it. So, this is how we played it. Hopefully, and people that check in, hopefully they saw the film. It's not a big deal film, so you probably have watched it this week. Or if you're really weird, you can actually read it more. But that's highly doubtful. But what we'll do is we'll take check in. I'll ask the movie. You tell me yes or no. And then work by yourself as a positive down on that. And then we will go with 3 rounds. First round is plot, like you got it. Second round is acting, characterization. Third round is special effects. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-in. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the nice movie from 2015? See, here we go.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did not see the movie, but I'll be listening to see if I should.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan Dallas. I did see the movie. I didn't fall asleep. I saw the whole thing.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see this movie.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. I've got NC 5 p.m. Tony in Dallas. No, he's not. But he is interested in input whether he should. WT5OZL, Miss Brenda in Dallas. Yes, she saw the film. ND5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, she saw the film. Anyone else? And I'll also take echo and check in from this one. Because we'll see a couple of them.
Kilo Delta 5, Lima, Quebec Delta, Jimmy and Carrollton.
Okay, well, we got Jimmy, 85 LTC. Jimmy over in Carrollton. Welcome. You're awake. I bet you haven't, but who knows? Maybe you did see the film. Nice movie we'll be discussing death, well, or not. Point B, did you see this fine film?
I did.
Okay, well, I'm surprised. I'm glad you're here, and we'll be asking you questions about it here in a little bit. Okay, anyone else? I see the usual suspects over on Echolink, but they're being sleepy. Do you guys want to check in or not over on Echolink? Bravo 9, character Kilo, John of Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this cell. Hey, guys, KB9SOK. That's Sean over in Fort Worth. I see Tom, N5HYT. Used to be one of our regular contributors, but I'll bet you he is sound asleep in his chair. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get this thing started. I'm going to skip Tony at first, only because he'll have some sort of an anecdote about the film midway through our discussion. So I'll start with Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, you stayed awake through the entire film. What did you think about the plot? What point?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I thought it was a soap opera for a while. It was just bicker. And to call these people friends, I think is stretching it a little bit. They work together, and they spend all their time together. I wouldn't exactly call them friends, but they designed this machine, this mysterious machine that was supposed to have some kind of an energy thing. And instead they accidentally built a transporter. Now, talk about a plot hole. How do you explain this? They never did. They didn't try. It's just, whoops. So then they foolishly began transporting themselves all over the place, even though it's very painful. Then the bad guys come and try and buy it away from them, and they don't want to sell it. And, it's kind of a spy thriller after that. But, yeah, science, no. I guess that's why they call it science fiction. Ridiculous science. But having said that, I rather enjoyed it. It moved along at a good clip. When they weren't bickering so much, it wasn't too bad. And I didn't want to turn it off. I didn't fall asleep. I didn't get tired of it. So it had good pacing, I thought. Music was kind of interesting. All right. I think I'll stop there. WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Interesting. Okay, maybe I did miss that much when I fell asleep. Next up is Virginia. NG5F Virginia. Your thoughts on the plot for point KE5
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, the idea of the plot wasn't too bad. It started with these guys at a university who, I guess they were graduate students, and they came up with this idea. I think the idea was that they wanted to build a transporter. You kept saying time travel, but it's not really a time travel thing. It's more of a kind of a Star Trek transporter kind of thing. They even called the thing you stand on a pad. I thought that was interesting. Of course, if they're all nerds, they're probably all Star Trek fans. So that would make sense. No, my 3D printer that I'm testing just beeped. I don't know what that means, because I've never used this one before, so this should be fun. Anyway, beeped again. Anyway, so they, it tells me to pull out this filament and I can't get it out. I'll try again later. So they were presenting this idea to some, I guess, faculty reviewers for, I don't know what kind of a project. Anyway, it seems like they kind of knew what they were doing, and then the guys that they were presenting it, guys and other people they were presenting it to, didn't even want to give them the time of day, so they must have had a poor reputation at their institution. There was a lot of just, the plot was obscured by what was supposed to be the comedy aspect of this, but it wasn't funny at all, and that was just them bitching at each other. They just, excuse my French, I'm on the radio, pardon me. They were just griping and cussing and swearing, and they just, you know, it, I didn't find it funny at all. There was one moment that was really supposed to be funny, that was supposed to be kind of whimsical, where one of the guys, like, is trying to impress this girl that was on the original reviewing committee, who was the only one who seemed to think that what they were doing might be okay, and one of the guys, the guy who was, I guess, supposed to be the main inventor of this thing, he had asked this gal out on a date to try to impress her, and he had her meet him at a certain place, and he was going to show up via this transporter and, I guess, try to impress her, and she just, like, freaked out and ran away, and the bouquet of flowers he was holding were on fire. And then for some reason, every time anyone transports with this thing, they throw up, and blood spurts everywhere, which I thought was gross and very, made the whole thing very unappealing, because then you got this one character who's just cleaning up blood all the time. That seems to be his only function in the group. The one, I guess, guy who's sort of funding the whole thing, he's the guy who won't use the machine, and he's sort of grumpy and angry, and this invention, and they're not scientific at all, and they're not funny at all, and the guy who's supposed to be all kooky, who's on drugs, I don't find drug stuff to be funny, but that's just me. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's other people too, but I thought that the idea where that one guy they knew, this one guy that they were associated with, that they were kind of telling their idea to, he went to a corporate guy and got him, you know, tipped him off about what they were doing, and he turned out to be the bad guy. He wanted their invention, and he was, you know, kind of strong-arming them about, you know, selling it, but they were having trouble with testing it, you know. Once they figured out how it worked, or kind of how to set the coordinates, and they were trying to figure out a way to make it work so that it wouldn't cause physical damage, because the one druggy guy, like, he keeps, like, using it for his own personal entertainment, and ends up, like, causing himself a lot of health problems, and they were trying to sort that problem out, but as soon as they did, they sent another guy away, and they thought they'd send him to the backyard, and he's on some, you know, they don't know where he is, and they're, like, driving all over the country looking for him, and that's right when the corporate guy decides he wants to pay them some unspecified but very large sum for this thing, and then it turns into, I mean, I kind of get what they were going for. I think they were trying for sort of a Real Genius kind of a thing, and we did watch Real Genius the other week, and it was very fun and whimsical and entertaining and not boring and funny, and this movie, I think it was trying for something like that, but a little edgier and angrier, but it was just, you know, the little jokes just weren't funny enough to make me even laugh. Like the one where the guy, you know, scares his date away by showing up via transporter. I think that was she runs off screaming, and I think that was supposed to be funny, and, you know, it was mostly just sad, and the druggy guy who starts bleeding profusely unless he takes ecstasy every few hours. I mean, I don't know. I just, you know, there were some okay ideas, and the very end had a little bit of a payoff to it where they kind of trick the corporate heavies who have decided they're just going to come and take their invention because they won't sell it to them, and the angry, grumpy dude who's funding everything, he finally, you know, decides to stand up for himself and for them, and they have this whole plan, and they send all the plans for it out over the internet so the guys can't own it or steal it from them or whatever. And I get the idea that it was supposed to be sort of this, you know, take down the man kind of a thing, but it just, the idea was decent, but the plot, I did keep watching. I was kind of, the most interesting thing that happened was when they finally thought they'd fixed it, and then they sent their friend, you know, supposedly to the backyard, and then they couldn't find him. They're like, you know, because we never think of that when we're trying to invent a transporter. What if we transport someone somewhere and we don't know where we sent them? That was actually probably the most interesting part of the whole thing. But some of it was just kind of macabre and, you know, dreary and, you know, too much anger and not lighthearted at all. There was a little Easter egg scene at the end of the credits that actually made me laugh. It was the only laugh out loud moment in the whole movie, and it was this little coda on the end regarding their friends that they had sent away, and the corporate goons. So anyway, I need to be quiet, but the plot was, the idea was okay, but the execution was blah and not fun, and you know, could have just been, it could have been a comedy, but it just wasn't. NV5F.
All right, well, thank you, Virginia. Now I understand why I fell asleep during the I guess I got bored somewhere along the way. So if you're right, it's a long time to go into the so much well, that's why I fell asleep. All right, next up is 85 LQD. Jimmy, you saw the film. Now, I know you're not one to, if you're here, you're talking to us, so what did you think about the film? Go ahead. From 85 ICS.
Well, first of all, thank you, Virginia, for the 57-page book report. This is a guy film, never to be understood by females. I've been in design groups all over the place where we fuss at each other and cuss at each other and sniper each other. That's just what we did. Anything less, and you were being romantic. The wonderful thing about this movie was that they avoided techno-prattling the audience to death. That is one of the biggest mistakes of the sci-fi genre, is to just go on and on and on and on and on about explaining this, that, and the other. And they avoided that, and that's what made it a really good, fun film. 85 LQD.
All right, well, thank you, Jimmy. You make some really good points. I thought about it that way, but it was great. Yeah, technobabble was a bit much, so we didn't have any of that in the film. A little romantic. And look at me, I thought it was a time machine. I added more stuff into it than it was. It's just a simple transporter like you would have on Star Trek, without the technobabble. All right, very good. Thanks for your comments on that one. Sean, 89SOK, your thoughts on our plot to our fine film? 85.
KB9SOK. Well, for me, this was interesting. I didn't find it as a comedy at all. As it's already been mentioned, it was pretty much just a couple of guys arguing for an hour and a half, using a lot of F-bombs, which, I got nothing against it, but it didn't need to be every other word. To me, it didn't add anything to the film. It didn't make it funny. And yeah, I mean, the one thing, it was nice that I guess it wasn't a time machine this time, which is typically, they actually, it was a teleport, which is something we don't typically do in Star Trek. It's never the focus of the show. But they were starting out first, so teleporting made no sense. I think they'd been a lot wiser just to say, it's a teleport from the get-go. That's what they were trying to do. So I don't know, why they decided to make that overly complicated and not make any sense. Despite all that, there was definitely a lot of plot holes in this. I get it, it's supposed to have been a comedy, but, even if this thing had actually acted as a teleporter and is sending someplace by mistake, then, why would you continue to test it with humans? You think at that point any reputable scientist would be starting out with a simple object and doing the proper test before you send humans or even animals through it. So that was just completely ridiculous. They kind of insinuated this kid was kind of a genius. And if he focused on other things, he'd probably do great things. But for a genius, these guys were pretty dumb. The guy that backed the financial, I guess he really wasn't. He's really just the money and just took some classes. But once again, if he's the money guy, then, they were trying to get money out of the college. So then why was he being a real butt during the presentation? After all, I'm sure he wanted his money back. So the whole thing was just, to be honest, it felt like to me the 13-year-olds wrote this. Well, wait a minute, that's probably insulting to a 13-year-old, maybe 11-year-old. It just wasn't a very good plot. It just didn't make a lot of sense. Once again, I know comedies don't necessarily have to make sense, but I know they're saying it was a comedy, but I'm not really sure it was supposed to be. It just, to me, felt like a bunch of, high school kids that got together and got out their old Sony Handycam and decided to make a movie together. And then, the whole science thing was, I don't necessarily need it explained to me. I agree with that. It don't need to be detailed. But this thing was just so ridiculous. Supposedly he built this machine for $10,000 and got stuff off the black market that was illegal to make it. So it's like I'd be a little surprised you could build anything like that even remotely for $10,000. And then in the end, when they released it out to the internet, within days, it looked like thousands of these machines had been built. Those parts were that rare and that illegal. How in the heck how many of those things did they get built that fast? So, I don't know. It was just weak for me, unfortunately. And, character round ought to be interesting as well. So anyway, that's all I got on that.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, probably true. Before I say anything, let me see if there's anyone else out there. Does anyone else want to join us in choosing a nice movie for the Astro movie night called If you'd like to join in, here's your opportunity to come to call sign. Hey, did you see the film? Alright, that was a great fight happen with anybody else, but let's see here. You know what, I found a description of the film over on Amazon of all places. It goes on and on and on and on. I wish I had it earlier, I guess, but I'm not sure anybody's just been through this yet. Detailed synopsis. I'm trying to read through it quickly so I can figure out what the heck I remember from the film last night. Let me just give you, I guess, a visceral reaction. I can't give you a lot of details. This movie put me to sleep. No two ways about it. I fell asleep, although I fall asleep pretty early in the evening, except on Saturday night. I sometimes fall asleep. But, I think that the thing is that it was a thin premise, And I kind of thought that the university people were kind of asking, but that's just, and we don't know exactly the reason why, but and this is the guy. I agree with Jimmy, though. In a way, these guys are going to be going back and forth and talking that way. It sort of makes sense that I familiarity with that as well, as far as what goes on. But it's been so long ago. I'm so old that it takes a while to remember all that stuff. I was one young one decades ago, and probably messed around, but never built my own transporter device. I drove my own transporter device. It was a 1976 Maverick. So at any rate, the strange part at the end, I do remember with the it sounded like a Russian kind of guy and that. That was pretty typical of what the movie was beforehand too. That's when I woke up, was I guess towards the end of that. And they kept doing that scene over and over and over again. The guy kept, shut up! Shut up. They're giving him a hard time for Russian mafia, I guess. But they kept doing the same thing over and over again, which kind of lost the appeal. It was semi-entertaining the first couple of months, and after that, you could tell that they were drawing this down. The movie was only, 90 minutes long at that. One of these things, they call it a short, not even a regular movie, but I don't know. It ran long and it ran slow. I think if they had taken this and actually done some more with it, potentially, might have been interesting. The little thing at the end where they find out where they actually are on some weird island somewhere, and they're talking about Gilligan's Island was kind of fun. Now that was funny and had the pieces to it that were entertaining. But I don't know. It really needed more of a plot. Maybe better jokes might have helped. It was supposed to be comedy. But that brings us up to one of the things that's really difficult sometimes in science fiction is good comedy. How do you do it? And, good science fiction is hard to do anyway. Good reading science fiction, that's almost impossible. Because typically what happens with good science fiction comedy is it makes fun of things that come before it, or plot devices. Lower Decks in Star Trek is a good example of that, where they make fun of all the Star Trek episodes because that's what it is. And that works because of all the different plot holes that occur. But it's still a parody. It's entertaining. It has good stories, but primarily it's a parody. Lampooning some material. This one wasn't doing that so much, although it did have moments like that, but not enough to really hit them. The other way to do it is that the duck out of water story, where you take somebody and put them in another situation that's just totally alien to them. We saw that in a film a few weeks ago where the guys ended up in a science fiction, a low-budget science fiction film. But that one was a little bit of both the parody and, of course, the duck out of water story. So, I don't know. I guess those are possibilities. I don't know what other ones you might have beyond that. Maybe somebody can think of them. This is when I call upon Tony, and he can tell us. Like that. So let me go to the top to Tony. Tony, what do you think good comedy science fiction should be? You know probably more of these than I do. You got any suggestions? Does this film spur any interest in you to watch from KG5 ICS?
Well, thank you, Tom. I have been really struck by the contrast between the comments. I particularly enjoyed both Brenda and Virginia because they were so different. You know, one of them was kind of enjoying it, and the other was annoyed, and that sort of Siskel and Ebert difference brings a lot of fun to the net for me. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but really, really busy. You know, it's spring, so there's so much to do inside and outside the house, and so this is not off my list, but, you know, I might be popping up on some net a year from now and saying, hey, I finally got around to watching that. So I haven't written it off, but as far as a good science fiction comedy, I don't know. What I haven't heard anyone telling me about is their favorite character. I mean, we might get to that next round, but I haven't heard anything that sounds like a really, you know, a good character-driven story, because, like, even Galaxy Quest did that pretty well. I mean, Galaxy Quest is great, but it was actually, Galaxy Quest was just pretty great. I can't back away from that sentence very easily. And they did that not only by using a lot of different references, both visual and plot, and musical, but also with their characters. And that's the comedic element that I haven't heard. I haven't heard about a Steve Martin or a Groucho Marx or anybody here who's going to get me to really stick with it. So, you know, it might be worth it, but I think that, you know, any good story depends on the people, and that's what I'm skeptical about. We'll see what people say in the next round. NT5TM.
I agree. Okay, well, it is this next round, so Brenda, you're up. WD50ZL. What do you think of our, I don't know, 4 major characters, plus ancillary characters? What do you think? KT5IC.
This is WB50ZL. Well, these brilliant scientists I found incredibly stupid. I would not transport myself to some unknown location. And what's the point? And, you know, until it's tested, you might end up being transported into the middle of a boulder. You don't know how it's going to come out. It's horribly risky. You'd think scientists would be a little bit more, cautious or a little conservative, or not so risky to do something like that. And so that kind of disappointed me that they just were willing to take such horrible chances with their bodies. So I didn't see the part where they were brilliant, other than everybody kept saying that they were, and they accidentally turned a clean energy machine into a transporter. The transporters on Star Trek, you got to have coordinates. You can't just beam somebody, you know, into space or into a closet. You got to know exactly where you're going, or you're going to have a horrible accident. And where's the fun here? It hurts, and it's very unpleasant, and you're all charred when you're finished, and you don't know where you're going to go. And the poor occurred to them to go back to the top of the mountain where everybody seems to be going. Instead, they wandered the streets aimlessly. I found that a little bit unbelievable. The characters were fairly annoying, most of them. I could tell them apart, I'll give them that. The crazy guy did a pretty good job of playing crazy. I'm not sure that's to his credit, but he was believably insane, not endearing at all. And there's questionable ethics everywhere, and people who couldn't get along. I don't know how these people are ever going to have a job out in the real world, because they're just not. They just don't play well with others. Okay, back to net. WB50ZL.
Interesting. Okay, next up is Virginia, NT5S. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization for our fine film, Point B from 50.
well, as I have said a billion times on here, the characters are ultimately what make you care. And there was nobody that had a dream or hopes or something they were, believed in. There was nobody to get behind here. I did not care about these people. That whole thing about, this is just how guys act, and that's guy humor, and that's how we guys are, that's a cop-out. That's just nonsense. If it were a movie about a bunch of guys being guys, and they had something redeeming or likable about them, and if they were about maybe 90% fewer F-bombs, that might have helped too. But yeah, there just wasn't anything believable about them building this thing, let alone, it turning out to be something, the first transport, I guess, was accidental, but the guy knew where he was immediately. They were all really good at throwing up, and, and I don't guess it's acting or characterization, but whoever did the makeup, I guess, made them look like they had been sort of, char-broiled. I'm not sure how transporting makes you charred or makes you throw up, but, I guess I could imagine it making you throw up. The whole blood thing, I still just, that's probably all for part 3. Anyway, I saw the attempt to make them distinct characters from one another. You had the kind of wimpy, cowering guy who had to clean up all the blood, and you had the serious-minded guy who was trying to actually, figure out how this thing worked, and then you had the kooky genius, quote-unquote, who's, always on something, and somehow that makes him smart enough to build this thing, and then you've got the financier who's very skeptical and won't even use it, and he's like angry, and we're not sure why he's angry. He's just angry. You could take the same ideas of differing personalities, all kind of forming an ensemble where everybody's strengths, played into. It really is. It's like Real Genius. Real Genius is a perfect example of this kind of science fiction that's actually pretty funny. And this just wasn't funny, and these people weren't funny, and their acting was fair to middling to bad, depending on which person. Some of the dialogue was pretty flat, and some of the stereotypes were taken a little too far, and most of them weren't very memorable. So anyway, I didn't believe them as scientists or as friends. And, the guy trying to get the girl interested in him, and she was Miss Super Smarty Pants, you're, I'm going to, make fun of everything you say. And, that's just, I don't know. There was just nothing in here that was, probably the chick at the counter at the Quick Stop she was probably the best actress in the whole movie. Anyway, that's it for me. NV5F.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Virginia. Well, Jimmy, CD5LQD. What do you want to say about the characters from the KD5 ICS? I suspected he might wander off, but let's see here. Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization? right, I tell you what, there's a little message in here that says exceeded transmit time limit on Sean, so I think the program may think it's bad boy or something. That sometimes happens with the SPX link. This is what I use for Echolink. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll tell you what, we'll come back to him in a minute to see if it works. But let me say this on the characterization. I don't disagree with what folks said about characters. It is, and the way the story is set up, it's sort of, and I think Brenda Virginia alluded to it, you know, there's enough seriousness to it that, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a comedy? Do you want to be a drama? Do you want to be, what is it you want to do? Sometimes it's that way and it has weird imaging that could be disturbing to others, certainly to others. Not exactly everyone's favorite thing to display in comedy, which is a bit odd even of itself. I suppose that might put a big damper on the whole thing. The other thing, too, is that, as we mentioned about the characters, if we care about the fact that this is potentially dangerous, of course, our buddy with drugs, he's completely removed from it. The others not as much. They realize this could be a problem, and all that. So it gets to be a little on the strange side. I don't know. To some extent, it's sort of... that part probably didn't work all that well for me. A lot of it, so I don't have a lot of comments outside the fact that I agree characters weren't as interesting as maybe they could have been. I see them behaviors and but I don't know if you're doing a 90-minute movie with that. Okay, so jury's still out on this one. All right, anyone else want to check in before we move on to the final round? If you want it all, please come to your call sign your name. We're transmitting from as well. You don't do that, but you can do so.
Bravo 9, Sarah Kilo, Sean, recheck, see if it's working.
Ah, cool deal. Yeah, you got the mystery message. Someday I'll figure out what that is, but probably not in my lifetime. But we hear you fine now, Sean. Go ahead with your comments.
This is KB9, okay? Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't see that message on my side. I guess I need to learn how to see that. But anyway, yeah, on the characterization, I agree with everybody said. These characters were just boring. You know, because all he did was argue. You know, and I guess my college days must have been quite different. And I hung out with geeky people, some sciencey, some, you know, computerish, and, you know, we didn't sit around and just constantly talk like that. Did we cuss on occasion? Of course we did. But was it every other word? No. I've been around very few people that have been that way. I have met a few people, but I don't get much out of those conversations. So yeah, this just didn't humor me. I didn't look anything up on the film. Maybe it was a very young writer that it just, you know, that was around people that did talk like that. But to me, it just didn't add any validity to the conversation. Didn't make it seem more real to me. They'd been a lot funnier had they saved some of that colorful language for the truly insane situations and not just every conversation. Yeah, the characters were distinguishable, but, you know, they just mostly argued most of the time. You didn't really care about them. You know, like I said, it feels like, you know, somebody took their handy cam and tried to make their own movie. And oddly enough, in high school, me and my friends tried to do that. It has the kind of acting level. Wasn't great. You know, we can look back and watch that now and laugh at ourselves because it was so horrible. But don't think that's what this film was going for. So, yeah, my 2 cents. Tony, I would watch Galaxy Quest again, or Spaceballs, or something along those lines. I wouldn't watch this one. But anyway, that's about all I really got on this one. Not much to add, unfortunately. Back to that, KB9, that's okay.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. I'm mostly in agreement on that one. Okay, well, too late here. Do another round. Let's give it a shot. Special effects or music or whatever you want to talk about. We got plenty of time, so I'll start with, well, let me start with Brenda. Tony, if you're still there at the end, I'll go ahead and let you have the last word. But Brenda, WB50ZL, your thoughts on special effects, music, anything we didn't cover, go right ahead. Sorry, Mike.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I mentioned earlier, I did kind of like the music. It wasn't great, but it was okay. Special effects, it wasn't too much. It obviously a very low-budget movie. You know, guys got together to make a movie, and who's going to act? And, well, we are, of course, and none of them can act. But they, it really wasn't a very strong story either, and it looked like they filled it in with the bickering because for lack of a plot. And so, on the whole, it's a pretty weak movie. I'm not sorry I saw it. I kind of enjoyed it, or it gave me something to think about. But I'm just having such a hard time with the stupidity of it all. And then, you know, the guy that put the money in thinking he's just going to sell everybody out. What kind of friend is that? It was supposed to be a thing of how we all strengthen our bonds as friends. And boy, that didn't happen. I kind of didn't like the way that they were so casual about the drug use. I don't find drug use funny, or drug jokes funny. I think drugs are a tragedy and ruin so many lives. And people in movies wink at it so much, or people in Hollywood do, like it's some kind of a joke, and it is not. It's very harmful. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, very good. Continue in 5F. Your final thoughts and covered, including 5I.
Okay. Yeah, special effects were passable when they needed them, and it was mostly for the transporter manifestation, you know, wherever they come out of the thing, and they had kind of some sparkly stuff, and space looked like it was kind of bent, and you know, that was fine. But it was kind of sparkly and whimsical, and you know, sort of implied a lighter, more airy tone that the rest of the movie didn't have, so it was inconsistent visually with kind of the style. Speaking of the style, it was funny because right in the middle of the movie they inserted this whole little montage thing of the guy and the girl. You know, she's going up to where he tells her to meet him in 30 minutes, and you know, and it's like just thrown in there. You know, they didn't pull the rest of the movie together with that kind of, and that was a real popular style around that time, where people were trying this style where you were seeing 2 or 3 things in several different plot lines all on the screen at the same time, and kind of shifting and sliding around, and like one frame would, you know, the screen would, you know, split, and then it would slide over, and then another scene would slide into frame. And so they were fooling with that style, and they did some of that in the title sequence as well. They had some undercranked stuff that was high speed, like lights going by, and the open title music was very cool. It was kind of 80s, and the opening of the movie seemed kind of promising. It sort of had 2 openings, which was the guys like trying to turn on their video camera to talk about what was going on, and that was like a framing device that I don't think was really very necessary. And then after that, they did sort of a out of sequence sort of preview flash forward to where and the girl there is, sitting behind the counter reading a magazine, and she looks up and suddenly there's this guy there, throwing up, and so it was, they had some ideas. They had a few what they thought were good ideas, and they felt like they had to use all of them, I guess. But the open title music and the closed title music was kind of cool, and the graphics in the open titles were really cool, and I was like, I was disappointed that the promise that was shown in sort of the technical quality of the opening of the movie was not carried through. That whole feeling with the music and the colors and all that was also not carried through. The I don't know what the name of it is. There's probably a name for that technique of having this sort of, simultaneous, scenes, concurrent scenes, all kind of sliding around the screen together. That wasn't carried through. It was just sort of here, and it was just kind of in the middle in that one dating sequence. And so they had a few. It was like they had a few good ideas, and everything in between the beginning and the end, and that one dating sequence, and some of the special effects was just kind of angry, sort of drab dishwater, filler of, and the music there was, it was okay. The incidental music was, nothing memorable, but there were some things in here that said these, too much of the shaky handheld camera thing. I'm tired of that. They obviously had some decent equipment they could have done a lot more with. It was way nicer looking than any of my student films. But what screamed student film was, as we always say in here, the audio. Good Lord. They had some audio that was obviously, it looked like it was looped later on because they must not have gotten a good sound recording on location. And they didn't even bother to try to put in ambient sound. I guess no one taught them that whenever you're filming on a location, you should take a lot of audio footage of just ambience wherever you are, because it'll come in handy later on. So there was some bad audio, which to me always screams, these people, they're amateurs, but it was, like I said, their equipment, they had some good equipment. They just, they just could have done a little better with it. But I wouldn't call it a short. It was a full-length film. 90 minutes is considered a full-length movie as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, it was kind of a modern-day attempt at something like Real Genius maybe, but just too dark and not funny. NV5F.
All right, thank you for you did one of my favorites, the audio part, so belabor that. My turn. You're right. Okay, I'll try on Jimmy again. The 85 LQD. Closing. All right, let's go to Sean. 89SOK. Sean, your parting shot. Go ahead.
This is KB9SOK. I agree with what everybody said. The music was, it was kind of, just the intro and the ending was very interesting. It intrigued me. I doubt that I'd buy it, but I did like it a lot better than a lot of these other low budget things that we've seen. So it was kind of neat. I agree, the audio was complete trash for a lot of this. That's once again kind of made me give me that feel of a handy cam kind of situation. The montage in the middle, I agree, Virginia. That was kind of strange, the way they threw that in just in the middle of this film. It didn't make a lot of sense. And even when they were doing the sliding tile, it's like you could see the software they were using. They had like this purplish line in between. Like they didn't go back and clean it up. Maybe that was intentional. It was part of the comedy. I don't know. But it was weird. I agree. You're right. The movie did have different feels throughout the thing. It started out with the whole framing and all that, and trying to make it look like they're recording an apology. But But yeah, this movie was not great, but it's better than some of the movies we've seen in the past. So I wouldn't put it on the worst thing we've ever seen. I didn't fall asleep, so I'll give it that. So but yeah, if you've watched everything else on YouTube, can't find anything else, then yes, maybe watch this one. So looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, John. And I have the movie here. So I'll put my comments in and then turn to Tony for a little bit. Yes, I noticed the audio thing right away. By the way, I did go through the box numbers that they had. I wasn't sure if those were professionally done. They had ASCAP numbers and all that on them, so I don't know if I suspect. I don't know if they all that well that. I would say that their choices, wherever they were, whether they were fun or commercial, they were very good work for the film. The open closing parts, I agree. It really was good. They're approved after that. So I'm with you on that. And finally, on the sound itself, yeah, there was some looping in there. It was so bad it looked like it was from American International, Japanese to American film, American subtitles. Oh, my goodness. The audio in there sounded very much like it was in a booth, because it was outside or whatever. Then there were other scenes where it was outside, and the echo, the wall, and all of that. Bad news, whenever that happens, bad thing, that takes you out of the moment. Sound may be the most important thing you can have in a movie, believe it or not. Okay, Tony, NC5PM, you got any anecdotes for us, anything you would like to say? Is there a better movie we should have been watching?
Well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I think the consensus that there weren't any really relatable, interesting characters that you can appreciate or enjoy, yeah, I'm probably not going to watch this. My anecdote would be that we're back in college, and right after, when I knew people who wanted to be filmmakers and would often volunteer to work on their movies, I did work with an aspiring director who, during shooting, kept insisting that film is a visual medium, and it doesn't matter that you can't get sound here, and that, you can't get the boom in the shot because blah, blah, blah, whatever problem. And then folks complained that we're going to have to loop all of this because the sound is so awful. It's like, you wouldn't let me get good sound during shooting, and you told me it wasn't important, and then you complained that the sound was bad. Well, there's a movie that we never actually finished. But, that's a long story. There are an awful lot of dialogue in movies is looped, but it's looped well, and yes, room tone, I think is the phrase. I definitely got plenty of that, but, oh boy, that was the story. I'll tell that on another net. Anyway, yeah, I think I've dropped this from my list because of the lack of good characters. NT5PM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. Yes, so funny. In my work, we do some audio recordings, video, and all that, and we spend extra time to make sure that we get it as close to good as we can. We're not doing drama, but it's got to sound right. So one team to another, and all that. It takes extra time to get it right, because it is so distracting to have bad results. It's really terrible. You've got to have good sound, even above the they're both very important. Sound actually is most important because it's distraction. You're not paying attention to what's happening on the screen. The audio sound weird, wonky, wrong, introduction for now, which brings up an interesting point. I'll make this comment only because it no longer exists on the science fiction series. But back in the 70s and late 1990s, It was done, it was sent out on, I believe, 16 syndicated series. Now, if you go and get it on DVD or Blu-ray or watch any of those, or you can watch it on those TV evidence, it's fine. The sound works fine. But back in 1975, when it came out, or the series came out, there, on 16 millimeter, for whatever reason, they would go to the music overture opening, and it warbled badly every episode, and it was hilarious, because I remember, you come to tune to your friend, and you do the warble effect. It just made it sound so horrible, and it made that series so substandard for audio stuff. Varying all over the place. Now, the audio is better now. It doesn't make it that much better, but it does make it better. So that's my story on sticking with it. All right, everybody write this down. Next week's movie, are you ready? Speaking of 1975, this movie is from 1975. Everybody's favorite James Caan in Rollerball. Yes, it's there. It's on USG. So that'll be next week's movie, Rollerball. Okay, well, we've got about half an hour earlier than normal, but that's probably appropriate for the film. So say step 3 to everybody. Go and sit, watch a little bit of the movie. So thank you for participating. We got further along than I ever thought we would. So thanks for sticking with us. The first case, 5 and 8, clear for